Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Valaery Rose Show. I'm your host, Valaery Rose, and today's episode is going to be about self love in times of turmoil. It's February 1st, the month of love. So we're going to kick off this month with pouring into ourselves, pouring into others, while also acknowledging the emotional weight of the current events that are happening in our country, such as violence on humanity, discrimination, immigration enforcement, and the communities that are being targeted. And the intention with this episode is truly to nurture our inner strength for ourselves. So, showing up for ourselves first before we pour into others. And I'll be doing that today with a returning guest who is a Latina leader ready to use her voice for good, sharing with us self love practices and updating us on her life since she's last been on the show, which was about 5 months ago. Help me welcome Dr. Marcella Camberos.
Yay!
Welcome back, girl. How are you feeling today?
I'm so excited. I'm
so
ready to
excited
have
to
this
have you here.
conversation today. Yes.
Absolutely. Now, before we kick into this conversation that can feel heavy and even get us in our feels and others as well, let's highlight you, your rebrand, your beautiful new hair color, and updating us how life has been for you, whether it's personal or professional since the last time you've been on, which has been 5 months. I went back on the YouTube. I'm like, damn, it's only been 5 months. Time flies.
It does fly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been amazing. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you all for watching. I've been going through a rebrand and, I get bored. So I colored my hair. I went a little darker.
Okay.
And I'm one to not be afraid to creatively express myself. My rebrand, it stemmed from, you have to sit back and figure out what's working. And I was realizing this isn't working. Rather than prolonging it and trying to force it, I just rebranded a whole new brand, Velvet Anchor, where you anchor your power and lead your life. A lot of self-leadership, self-discipline, which dips into self-care.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I love how even though you rebranded, your mission is still the same and focusing on self-leadership. And I'm curious, I did notice since I've been following you for a while and we've been developing our relationship, before your brand colors were kind of like pinkish, more feminine vibes. And it still has that lovely feminine touch to it. But now I've noticed that your colors are more blue, white, and gold. So I'm curious to know if you are now expanding your reach to working with men and women. Because I know primarily we're always all about the women, but we know the men need the love too and the education to be that self-leadership in their life. So if you touch some bases on that.
I love that question. So I am inclusive. I do a lot of corporate training events. I do a lot of organizational training development. So it does touch into the area of men. The reason for the color is the more luxurious, if you will. Because I think when we hear luxury, we think monetary, we think brands. And so to really remind women that luxury means time freedom. It means being who you are, unmasked, not having to perform. So redefining what that means for women.
And thanks for clarifying that, because I was also going to ask to define what luxury coaching means, because as I was looking at your stuff, I noticed that as well. And my initial thought was, okay, this is coaching only for the bougie people. So then now with that clarification, you put the whole luxury into a different perspective and reframing it that it's attainable and it's not about a monetary limit. So for those out there that would love luxury leadership coaching with Dr. Marcella, please reach out to her, because it ain't about the money. If the price is right, it's going to work out for you. But now you have clarification that it is not only for the bougie people, okay? It's for those who want the luxury with time freedom and really self-governing their life, which leads me to Dr. Marcella. How have you been feeling with the rebrand? And that's the part of your professional life with the things that have been going on in the world. What are some emotions that you've been feeling and ways that you've been taking care of yourself? And if at any point I ask you something that you feel like, girl, I don't want to touch bases on that, please be like, nope, no, thank you. Because that is also a form of self-love by setting a boundary of, I'm not okay with talking about that, or I don't want to express this. So talk to me.
I love this question, and I'm very transparent. I think I want to acknowledge what's happening in the world right now, and that we're all feeling collective grief.
Right.
and that leads to just a feeling of disheartenment.
Right.
We are anxious. We are unsure of the future. We're seeing things on television that we thought we'd never see in this day and age. And it's sad. It's grief. It's all these emotions that, it's easy for me to spiral. And so I think I mentioned this to you is I try to be disciplined in turning off the news, especially I have like a no news hour, which I would advise people, right before you go to bed. If you're one that gets angry, there's a lot of emotions in what's happening, whether it's immigration, separation of families, we're seeing the children that are detained. It's absolutely horrendous. And I denounce it 1,000%, especially as a first-gen Latina. But I have to also be disciplined to not stay in that emotion because I can spiral like many of us. And then we have that compassion fatigue, right? Where, we feel helpless and hopeless. So it's a multitude, a juxtapose of emotions, which why I'm so glad we're talking about this because how do we take care of ourselves? How do we control the controllables? And then how do we show up for our communities and make a difference in ways that we know how?
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. And I applaud you and I admire you even more and respect you even more for taking a stance to be here and have this open conversation because I know a lot of people that aren't. And even if they aren't, it doesn't mean that they don't stand with us and with the community. I think it just takes a different level of courage to be like, I'm okay with speaking about this. I know that sometimes there could be like repercussions where partnerships could be cut off, losing clientele, losing money. But you are here to remind people that as a Latina leader, you are standing up for not only the Latino community, which is our primary community, but everyone that is being affected by this. And it goes beyond the brown community, the Latino community. It's extending to so many people. And as you mentioned, we're seeing this first thing on the news, which leads me to what have you been doing for yourself that has helped you stay grounded, like within your friends, your family, or just your own well-being in regards to self-love? I know you mentioned the news and cutting that off.
Yes, the no news hour. This year has been a lot of shedding and releasing, whether that means, and just holding the boundaries is what I've been able to do, whether it's toxic friendships or toxic, it's easy for me to get, or anybody, right, to get locked into that keyboard warrior, like, oh no, you didn't just post this, And so knowing what triggers you, and knowing how to shut that off and shut that down and being disciplined with my own boundaries, knowing that, okay, it doesn't matter if this person is a family or if I've known this best friend for a long time, we have history. What matters is our mental health right now.
Absolutely.
And what matters is being true to ourselves and having our voice, whether people like it or not. And if it's not in alignment, release it.
Yeah. And that is a perfect example right there of you embody that self-leadership because you're leading your own life and encouraging others to doing that. And it can be disheartening having to cut off people or relationships, whether it be personal or professional. So what you just mentioned right now, toxic friendships and setting boundaries, what have you experienced that you define toxic as being? To give the audience like insight on things that they can pinpoint and see in someone that you've experienced.
Yes. Toxic relationships or friendships, right, are narcissistic behavior. People that constantly make it about themselves. They don't want to hear your concerns, or maybe they think that what's happening in the world is not their concern. Maybe they're not in relation and alignment with hearing you out. And that feels fake. It feels inauthentic, and it feels very narcissistic when someone's making it constantly about themselves, what they're struggling with, and they don't listen to you with empathy, and listen to your experiences. That breeds narcissistic, and I don't have time for that. For those that the toxic relationship also is, those that don't want to see you win. People say, I want to see you win, girl. I want to clap for you. And it's so funny. We see this a lot. We hear this a lot where our friends and family, they don't support us. They don't like our stuff on social media. They don't share. It costs you nothing to like and share my content or my business to support me. But yet strangers are willing to step up and step in and build that alliance with you. So I don't have time for that. I release those people, the boundaries. That to me is toxic relationships, is when you're really not about me. The minute that I start to get wins, I have to hide that from you. And you're really not celebrating or clapping with me.
Yeah,
That's
because it
not
shows you
okay.
what that person is really
Right.
about and not being loving and supportive towards you. And it reminds me of the story that I told you just to share with y'all. There's a lot of people out there that see that they're all about women empowerment. But
Yes.
I shared with Dr. Marcella some time ago that I myself experienced someone be a little troll towards an event that she had that I attended. And remember, it was along the lines of this woman. I'm not going to say names because, I don't be messy like that. I just end up cutting people off as you do and verbally saying like, hey, you know what? I don't mess with you anymore because of X, Y, and Z, and leave it at that. Don't even got to loop around and see what they said. Just delete that message. But the situation was this woman was all about women empowerment, this and that. She started her own women empowerment movement and group. And I ended up sharing with that group an event that you had in Pomona, the Sip, Shop, Elevate event. And when I had shared that, she had told me, don't be sharing things from other organizations without getting my permission first. And I was like, whoa, that shit threw me way back because I was like so confused because as women that empower, like we don't hurt anyone by sharing content, sharing a business, even if for somehow, some reason we're like in the same coaching realm. Like everyone has their own personality, their own way of doing business. And just like we're both coaches, not everyone is going to flock to me. Right. Not everyone is going to flock to you. And there's always different people that are going to be in alignment with the coaching style and stuff like that. So I was so thrown off and I immediately told myself, like, this is a group that I don't want to be a part of because she's showing signs of, why do I need permission from you to share with other women this empowering event when that's what you're supposed to be about? Like, there should be no question about it. There should be like, hey, thank you so much for sharing that. Whoever can go, go. But her thing was, I want you to run it by me so that we could like roll deep. Right. And I'm thinking, we ain't no gang. Like, why do we have to run in a group to this place to show like that you're more powerful, that we're coming with you? Like that was just so wrong. And a lot of that is out there. So I love that you share that because firsthand I experienced that. And it was in relation to you. And I'm like, this is not okay. So when it has come to you cutting off these toxic relationships, whether it be friendships or partnerships, what does that look like for you? Like the verbiage, is it a phone call? Is it a text? What does it look like to you?
I love that you're asking this question. It looks unapologetic. It looks without permission.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, hey, you know what? This is not in alignment.
Right.
I'm not even going to explain myself.
Right.
I don't have to go down there. I like how you said asking for permission because that is so triggering for me. Is we should never ask for permission in our lives, whether it's a friendship or a relationship. Asking for permission is a no for me.
Yeah,
we want to be mindful and respectful of others, but having to ask for permission to share something that's empowering or positive. So I cut them off with silence. And if actually, I should step this back. I do ask, hey, can you hear me out? And if they don't give me the time, then we're okay. Yeah. The minute that people start to show you who they really are, believe them.
Yeah.
When that mask starts to slip and you see, wait a minute, this person is really not for me. And in your situation, that example that you gave is, I'm a big believer that there's enough pie to go around.
Yes.
And just as you said it so beautifully, is not everyone's going to gravitate towards me or my style. And that's okay. Maybe they'll gravitate towards you and your style, but I'm not one that gatekeeps. Right. It's women empowerment is about empowering through and through. And I try to communicate with them, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to chase anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that because when we come together and uplift each other, I think we pave the way even further and make more room to have more Latinas or more women in the spaces that we're going to. And this reminded me of a conversation that you and I had outside of here when we were talking about everything that's going on within our country. And you mentioned a key thing is building wealth within yourself and with us, because sometimes we can feel guilty of being in a privileged position where, hey, we're out here living life, we're working on our business, we're taking care of ourselves. And people may look at that like, why is she out having fun? Why is she out traveling during these times? But there shouldn't be guilt in us resting, in us still building ourselves up, while at the same time acknowledging what it is that's happening. So when you mentioned wealth, I would love for you to elaborate what you shared with me and how it's pivotal in us being able to pour back into communities that are being affected or just helping ourselves first and then help others and then the world at large.
Yes. So I'm a business person. I
Yes.
have my MBA
Mm-hmm.
and I'm business trained. So I am a big believer that there's profits, right? And there's power behind profits.
Right.
And what we can do with that profit is
Mm-hmm.
pour into our communities. Is that profit and that power and that wealth allows us to build spaces and give back. So I think a lot of people think like, how dare her? Doesn't she feel guilty carrying on with her business and everything that's happening? I don't. I mean, I do at times, right? But it's the power of the profit, the power that I can give somebody a platform, the power that I can put together a community event.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for is how can we empower our Latino businesses and Latina businesses to really drive those profits because there's power there. And then that power will really sustain community events. It will sustain community oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. You have to cut that off.
No, you're good. It's okay. As you mentioned, this care of
Impact.
community. Oh, impact. Okay, there you go. Impact.
Impact.
So you are definitely creating an impact, not only within yourself in building your own wealth, but also allowing other women to be in that space, which leads me to a lot of emotions that a lot of us are feeling right now can range from fear, anger, grief, numbness, or frustration. But there's so much power in coming to an event, which I would love for you to right now elaborate on the Women in Business Summit, because there's so many women that are going to attend this event that are feeling what we're feeling and maybe even more intensified, but they're still choosing to show up to a space that you are providing to better themselves and then extend that in other areas of their life. So go into depth about the Women in Business Summit and how that's going to go.
Yes. So the Women in Business Summit is on Saturday, March 21st,
Okay.
held at the University of Laverne, which is a Hispanic serving institution.
Nice.
And it is designed and really curated with intention to bring in women entrepreneurs, founders, and business owners all in the same room so that we can hear from keynote speakers, panelists, primarily Latina. This is an inclusive event, so you don't have to be Latina, right?
Yeah.
But it's to really bring our power together and see the testimonies from other Latinas and how they've been able to build wealth and profit in their business and what they are doing to drive that into social impact into our communities. That's where I really want to focus is it's not just about profits and the bottom line, but how are we using that profit to drive impact in our communities? We're all feeling it. You're not alone. We're feeling fatigued. We're feeling frustrated, angry. We feel like we don't have a voice. We can't, make an impact. So this room is designed to really show you powerful Latinas who have built businesses and wealth and how they've done it and what they're doing for our communities.
Absolutely. I love that. And for this event, is there tier ticketing to it? Is there VIP packages? Elaborate more on that.
There are VIP tickets. And the reason why that's designed is to protect the time of the high-level speakers and panelists that we have.
Okay.
They can't speak to everybody in the room, but there is general admission as well.
Okay.
And it will be a very experience-driven event.
I love that. That is going to be a really amazing event, and I hope and I know it's going to turn out very successful. And it's a nice way for you to open the floor to have women come, like you said, from all different backgrounds to share different experiences. And I think a lot of it too is showing the possibility of what life can be. And being in community is so very powerful, which leads me to, with how times have been, how have you led on community, or what are some things that you've done as self-care, self-love to find communities that support what it is that you are experiencing?
So I've been able to lean into our community through various events, through podcasts like this, and aligning with women that are also feeling that heaviness of the world right now. And whether it's through events, through podcasts, through journal sessions. I recently led a vision board session for a room full of Latinas that went beyond just putting pictures on a poster board. It was led with intention on how can we put together goals for 2026 that are going to be impactful for our community.
I love that. That is really nice. And in regards to self-love, because even having that event itself, it is a form of self-love and reminding women that no matter what it is that we're going through, life is going to happen. Life is going to be life in. But if they map out what it is that they want to do and their goals and their vision, no matter what comes their way, they're still going to stay in alignment and on that path to achieving those goals, even if they got to go a little bit to the left, to the right, because sometimes we think that our success is going to be like from point A and go straight up.
Right.
But a lot of the times we kind of get derailed. But if we remember our why, all of the moves that we make are going to be powerful. Even if we lose something, we always learn something. If we win, we win. What are some self-love tips that you can provide to the audience on how to deal with the emotions that they're going through? Because I know there's so many forms of self-love. There's the luxury approach of going to get a massage, going to get a facial, getting your nails done, and doing other things that can be a little costly. And we understand that a lot of families, a lot of people are scared to go outside right now. So, what would you say are some great self love tips for
Yes.
anyone to apply to their life?
Yes, I love this question because self-love is far beyond bubble baths and
Yeah.
massages. That is just a small trinket of self-love. Especially right now is what can you do to put together a community forum or a Facebook community that offers, maybe you can pick up meals or pick up groceries or drop off items for your neighbors.
Yeah.
Maybe you can reach out or post something on your social media. I'm available if you need help
Yeah.
to drop off groceries. And for those that are living in fear, knowing that it's real,
Right.
that the separation, the anxiety, everything that's happening is absolutely real.
Right.
So how can we shop small? How
Mhm.
can we support our small mercados?
Mhm.
Our paleta mans. And even if it seems so small of what you're doing, it's a way that you can give back in ways that you know how.
Right.
Self-love is being disciplined with your emotional regulation.
Right.
Because you can't pour into your community if you yourself don't have a regulated nervous system.
Right.
And that can be as simple as going out for a walk.
Mhm.
That could be as simple as journaling,
Yep.
as breath work,
Mhm.
and all that is free.
Yep, that is true. Would you love to give us an example of how you practice breath work? Because I know it's
Oh my
so
God.
vast. Like for me, right before we started this podcast, I'd be like, like it, and that deep breath just feels so good. So would you be open to sharing like some sort of breath work exercise? It could be like 30 seconds, like less than a minute, whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, so I would say take enough deep breaths.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to do it here.
No, you know what? I think explaining it is
Take
great.
those deep breaths
Yeah.
and hold it at the top. Feel your rib cage expand.
Okay.
And release what anxiety and fear and frustration and anger that you're carrying, because all of that will negatively affect your mindset,
Right.
and then you can't give back to the community
That's right.
because you're not regulated.
And I
You're-
love that you mentioned that because it's like sitting in solidarity with one's own emotions and their feelings and just feeling it all, accepting it, but finding a way to release it. And I love how you gave advice and tips because not everyone has to be on the front lines protesting. There's so many different forms of giving back. And you mentioned them. Like, I know you had posted something that you were at the fruta cart.
Yes.
And that was really nice because it even kept my mind and eyes open to like, hey, if you see like a florero, someone selling flowers or fruit, like just stop by and support. I'm like, eventually I'll use those flowers. Eventually I'll use that fruit. And even if it's like a $5, $10 purchase, it's very meaningful to them, to the vendor, because they're seeing the support during these hard and challenging times. And then you're getting them a money amount closer to them going home and hitting their quota for the day, which then brings, safety and security. So not only does one have to be like on the front lines and protesting, because I know it could be scary and it could be risky. And even though we're like all living in fear, doing these self-love tips that Dr. Marcella recommends will really help you still live and navigate through life, because you don't want to let that fear overcome you. Right, Dr. Marcella? Because what would you say are some things that can happen if we let the fear consume us and take us over?
Yeah, it becomes debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes debilitating, and then you get stuck in that. And again, then I'm very solution oriented and
Yes.
action oriented. And there are several ways that you can give back and support the community, whether it's a fundraiser, whether it's shopping small, shopping local, whether it's offering to pick up groceries, so using what your level of expertise. It looks different for everybody. It doesn't have to be on the front lines with a picket, and protesting. It can be, but, there are other ways. And my way in particular is to bring together a room full of Latinas so they can learn and hear from successful, powerful Latinas, not so they can get money in their pocket, but they can use that money to make a social impact and support small businesses.
Absolutely.
And shop small.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned shop small. Are there any specific small businesses that you'd recommend like supporting, whether it's like in your area, online?
Yes, so shout out to Moniso Boutique. Moniso is in the Santee Alley, and we know what happened recently in the Santee Alleys. There's a lot of fear there, and so anytime you can shop Latina-owned, Latino-owned, your dollar has power.
Right.
Yeah, and which is why I go back to the profits have power, and wealth has power, and being mindful of where you're using that dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of those recommendations. Do you have any other specific events coming up? You like to call it, the word is passion projects.
Yes.
Share more about that with us.
So I have a book I'm working on.
I know I've been seeing you post about it. Tell us about it.
Yes. So it's a memoir, and it's rooted in the Latino critical race theory. Oh, wow. And what this is experiences that we share as Latino Hispanic community. And it's to really drive you to be seen and heard. So through my experiences, maybe some of them might resonate with you. Yeah. And so that's going to be coming out this year.
Ooh, do you have a specific date yet?
Probably late summer.
Okay.
Yes. And then we have the Women in Business Summit. Yes. That's happening. And I'm also a part of NLBWA LA, which is the National Latino Business Women Association of LA, which drives a lot of events to empower and also educate small business owners in the Latino community. Whether it's how do we get business loans, how do we set up our business plan, and how do we get funding from the government to grow our businesses.
And I'm curious, as you were going through this book process, I know you posted it was either a story or a reel where you were just kind of giving us insight on how you felt during the process. You're like reliving past moments. You're reflecting on how much you've grown. You've had moments of happiness, sadness. So explain how the writing of the book process has been for you.
It has been incredibly emotional. It's probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done. And I did anticipate some of that trauma to bubble up. I grew up the daughter of an alcoholic, and there was a lot of neglect in my home. And I also grew up a latchkey kid. Both my parents had to work. They had to work. We had paycheck to paycheck, and so there's a lot of limiting beliefs that I had to overcome. A lot of feelings of unworthiness, imposter syndrome, things that I carried, which made me a very high achiever because at the root of it, I didn't feel like I was enough, which is why I got my doctorate degree. But it stems from a lot of trauma, and that I had to work through and write through and take the reader there. So stay tuned. Maybe you'll see yourself in some of my stories.
Absolutely. And for us to find this book, would you say the best way to keep up to date is to like follow you on social media, and then they'll see when the book comes out?
Absolutely. Follow me on social media. The book does not have a title yet.
Okay.
So I like to involve my audience. What would you guys like to see? And so you can be part of the process.
Ooh, I love that. That is very exciting.
Yes.
You mentioned the phrase latchkey kid. I know I heard it one time when Misty came on the podcast. Can you refresh my memory and explain what a latchkey kid means?
Yes, latchkey kid means you didn't have anybody home after school, and so you were given the key to the front door, and both my parents worked late. So we were on our own to feed ourselves, do our homework, somehow get home, find a ride or walk home. And so that is the essence of latchkey, is there's just not a lot of support at home because both parents are working.
Right. And would you say that a lot of the experiences you had as being a latchkey kid have helped make you be the woman that you are today, because you've gained skills that maybe someone else that had mom and dad home all the time aren't able to obtain?
Yes. So it's twofold. There were some strengths because I gained independence and I learned how to navigate on my own. However, I didn't have the support that a lot of youth have. And this is also cultural, because a lot of our parents had to work to put food on the table. And that's part of the Latino critical race theory. So now that my son's in college, I had the guidance to give him. I didn't know how to fill out a FAFSA. I didn't know what it meant. I was a lot of fear because I didn't understand because I'm first gen. Yeah. And so there's twofolds, right? It adds to independence, but it also would have been really nice to have some support.
Yeah. And it's nice seeing that, like, as a mother, because I could totally relate to you with that, where I didn't have someone showing me the ropes of life. And I feel like I learned a lot of things later on in life as an adult, like 18, even starting at 21, basic things. And same thing, just because in my situation, it was just lack of mom and dad overall. And I was raised with my grandmother, and being the eldest of 5, I feel like I had to grow up so fast. And now seeing my daughter, I tell her, I'm like, girl, you have it good, because you have someone that is loving and supportive, and just even teaching her the smallest of things, like how to cook, how to clean, and providing that personal development support that I know I didn't get when I was younger. Would you say that's something that, even though your parents weren't around, they were around, but they had to provide for the family? Did you ever learn personal development at a young age?
I can't say I learned personal development at a young age, which leads back to your luxury coaching.
Yep.
Why luxury coaching? Because if I have to drag you through professional development and personal development and to sell you on why you need it, I'm not the coach for you.
Okay.
You have to understand how the impact of personal professional development. And then I'm happy to take you to that next transformational level. But if you're kicking and screaming, I'm dragging you through personal professional development, again, it's definitely that next level person. It's like, okay, you've done some work, take my hand, let's go. We're going to go way deep.
And I love that you solidify that, because it reminds me too, like, I tell my bonus daughter as well, because she's very big on personal development, and her path is going to be a therapist. And sometimes she'll have a conversation with me, like, I share these experiences with people and give them tips, but they just don't get it. And to us, personal development has become natural, because it is our profession. It's what we do in our day-to-day life. So you did mention that your clientele would be someone who is already solid with personal development and is pretty much ready to accelerate themselves in a personal and professional level. So define to us what your dream client looks like.
Yes, my dream client. This is a great question.
You totally illuminated what they like.
My dream client is somebody who has done personal and professional development in some sense, who understands that investing in themselves is an investment in their mindset. Right. So because I have a doctorate degree, I use a lot of evidence-based, research-based strategies. Yes. So it's somebody who is open-minded, who is willing to put into practice that theory into practice, where if I'm giving you tools and strategies, you're doing your homework, so to speak. Right. Somebody that I'm not having to drag through and say, hey, there's a reason why I'm asking you to do these exercises. Yeah. You're looking to build your confidence. That is small, repetitive micro habits that you're teaching yourself. You can trust yourself because you can follow through, and so it's somebody who has done some work in personal or professional development.
I love that. And aside from your experience with your doctorate, I know you've touched base on this on the last podcast. You have about more than 20 years of experience with human resources. So how do you combine your professional experience from the past with now your luxury leadership coaching?
Yes. So I have 20 years of human resources experience, primarily in what's called talent acquisition. Okay. So that's recruitment. So time and time again, which is why I'm so passionate about this, is I would be the one to offer the job offer. Let's use a young female, and it was everything from an admin assistant to a C-suite, CFO, CEO, chief executive officer, chief marketing officer. And time again, what I found was women of color, particularly Latinas, when I went to extend a job offer, they wouldn't negotiate. They wouldn't counter my offer. And it stems from feelings of not being good enough, from lack of self-confidence. And this cultural narrative behind is be lucky, be thankful that you got the job offer. Got it. And so now it blends into my work as a coach to say, to hell with that. We are asking for more. Right. We're asking for more money. We're going to raise our prices in our business because limiting beliefs have been thrusted upon us. We don't have to live in that space.
Right. And you know how you mentioned, like, you held the power in your hands with the finances. Were you I'm curious how this works. Like, were you ever able to let them know, like, hey, you can ask for more? Or is that something that you couldn't do? And it's just like, hey, you know what? You know you can do it. But is it like an unethical thing in human resources? Especially if you know, like, we got the budget, we got the money. You can ask for $5,000, $10,000 more instead of being like, hey, girl, ask for a little more. Is that something that you would have been able to do?
I'm going to share some HR insight here.
Yeah, and if there's something that you can't share, please, by all means.
Lean in, people. So I was usually the one that negotiated the budget way in advance. And I have one story who was feeling a chief marketing officer, a young Latina from Puerto Rican from New York. And she was fantastic. And, the process is pretty lengthy for that level of recruitment. And so I worked with her quite a bit. She had the credentials, the knowledge, and the experience. I had up to $15,000 to give her. And when I went to offer the job, not only did she not negotiate her salary, but I would have paid $5,000 for her to relocate. And I also would have paid up to $5,000 in a signing bonus. And she didn't ask. I actually am not a very emotional person. That day I drove home and I cried because I thought, and this is getting emotional, but I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not in alignment. I saw myself in that younger girl, and I've been there where I didn't ask for more and I didn't counter. But we as recruiters, we have a budget that we've done on the front end. Usually there's a cushion, or we can go back to our CFO and say, I need more money. This candidate is dynamic. But if the candidate is not fighting for themselves, I cannot fight for you. I can't. I wish I could.
Yeah, I was curious based off
girl, ask for more money.
Yeah.
But it's unethical, and if that gets out in my HR career, then I would be without a job. But I ended up leaving my career shortly after that.
Because of the emotional and personal impact, because I remember last time you had mentioned as well that you were that young Latina, staying late, staying at a company for so long, working through lunches and breaks, and you didn't see that return of investment and gratitude on their end, which eventually gets tiring because you're like, damn, I'm doing all of this extra stuff and I'm not getting compensated for that. So I could only imagine how you felt like looking at your younger self, like mirroring, having that young Latina in front of you. And that stayed in my head from last time. I'm like, damn, if she knew she had like this amount of budget, and I'm not too familiar with HR, but then I did have the thought of maybe it's a little unethical because if that was a thing, all HR would be like, come on now, girl, you got like $15,000. Go ahead and ask for more. That would have been nice. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Are you ready for our Elevate in 60, which is the 3 questions I ask, and you covering it in 1 minute each question. So the first one, how do you feel after covering this topic today?
I feel hopeful. The goal is to spread positivity, spread hope, and, spread community.
Absolutely.
And strength in community. We're stronger together. Yeah. And that's my message. It will always be my message. And what can we do to empower one another, that we're not living in this space where I have to be silent about the amount of money I could potentially, give you. Now I walked away from that career so I can share and empower others what they may not know. So I encourage others. What do you know? What skills, what trades, what can you do to bring people together and to uplift our community?
Absolutely. I love that. And what is so powerful here too is you just dropping these gems and telling them like, come on, listen in, because all it's going to take for them to get that extra amount of money, going back to the HR, is just asking, because the worst thing that's going to happen is a no. So overcoming that fear-based mindset or not feeling worthy and just saying, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And as you mentioned, doing one's research to figure out, okay, well, if this position typically makes this much and I know I bring this, this, and this, maybe I should ask for a little more. And if not, shoot, I'll take what I can get. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Next up is, what's one self-love promise you're making to yourself right now, even while the world feels so uncertain?
Yes, one self-love. There's a few things, but I think one is I personally spend more time in my spiritual, is more with God, because we are not of this world, and that's my faith. And what can I take from God's teachings into the world to add a positive difference?
All right, Dr. Marcella. So elaborating on your response about the self-love promise is you just diving deep more into your spirituality with your belief of God. What does that look like for you in finding like peace? Like, what are some rituals that maybe other people can take from developing their relationship with their beliefs as well that are in alignment with you.
Yes, spend some time reading your Bible. That's what I do every morning. That's my 2026 goal is to sit with my Bible and do a self-guided women's Bible study. There's things that you can do, like a daily audio Bible. There's an app that you can do that has insightful proverbs. It's really short. It's called the Daily Audio Bible. You can download, and it really drives that hope of humanity back.
Absolutely.
In a time where humanity feels like it's in turmoil. In a time where it's easy to feel hopelessness. And it's easy to have anxiety and depression knocking at your door. And I'm not immune to it. But, using these tools in our tool belt, go for a quick walk. I have what's called like a fun playlist.
Oh, okay.
It's like an anti-depression playlist when the world gets too heavy and Bad Bunny's on there.
Oh, okay.
Just have a dance party when no one's watching in your car and shift your mood, shift your mindset because it can get real heavy real fast.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely true. And if we don't practice these self-love techniques, it really does build up in us because, as you mentioned, you've been feeling the weight of the world. So have I. And a perfect example is, even though I was doing all these different self-love practices, I think because it's personal to us because it affects our community and, humanity at large. But I'm like super grateful that it hasn't affected me to the point where it directly affects a friend or a family member being taken. But I remember a week ago, I was doom scrolling. And you know how you mentioned the news, like cut it off. I'm not really one to doom scroll, but that day I just saw a bunch of activity like by ICE and the things that they were doing. And I think I was doom scrolling for 3 hours straight.
Oh my.
So I think it really got to like my nervous system. And the following day, keep in mind these videos where they were going on in an area in Orange County here in downtown Santa Ana where I was going to go the following morning to tend to business matters at the OC clerk recorder's office. And naturally, I wasn't even thinking of anything, but as I was getting closer to the building, my nervous system in my body was just starting to like spaz out. And I wasn't even thinking anything negative. I think my body just knew like, shit, you're getting closer to an area that doesn't feel safe because of all the doom scrolling you did the day before that's now getting to you on the inside. But even after I left, I definitely did what I had to do to pour into myself. So I really appreciate all the tips that you've been sharing with us. And you did mention one of your goals is to tap more into your Bible and build this women's Bible study group. Would you say you have any other goals aside from that? That's 2026, maybe like professionally?
It's to finish my book.
Oh, you are going to finish that book because it's already going to come out soon. So.
Almost. I'm not quite done, but it's to finish my book with the level of intentionality again, to pour into others where you're not just reading a sad story, but there's hope, there's tools. If some of these experiences have happened to you, here's what I did. Here's what helped me. And establishing boundaries is helpful. Going to therapy is something that I've been in over 2 years now. And we talked about a little bit of the minority work ethic is knowing the first step is acknowledging. Like you're acknowledging, okay, I'm living through minority work ethic. I'm living through scarcity mindset. And then what can you do about it? And how do you shift that mindset to gratitude? Like you said, is, okay, I'm feeling the weight of the world. I doom scrolled. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And I'm grateful that I have enough knowledge that I can pour. I have a platform. What is it that you do have that you could flip that and be that attitude of gratitude so that you can use that positivity to pour into others?
Amazing words. I absolutely love that. And now we're going to go ahead and before we do any final messages, I would love for Solomon to pop up on the screen some journaling prompts that will be very beneficial to you all. You can find some time to just sit down, read them to yourself, write them down, and express yourself. So for the first one, it is, what emotion sits most heavily in my chest right now? The second one is, what simple thing can I do today that reminds me that I matter, that my feelings are real, that I'm paying attention to my own needs, not just everyone else's? And the third one, where in my community do I feel connected or hopeful? You can always go ahead and press pause to once again write these down and also sit on the different self-love tips that myself and Dr. Marcella gave to you today So before we end here, as we're coming to a slow end, Dr. Marcella, do you have any final messages that you would love to give to the audience?
So what you can do is practice the pause. A lot of times the world demands a response from us, immediately. It's okay for you to say, I will get back to you. Let me sit on that. Give me 24 hours and I'll give you an answer. The world often wants something that immediate gratification, and it's okay to set a boundary, the micro boundary. It's okay to release those people around you that have limiting beliefs or that are no longer in alignment. That's incredibly important. And you don't have to chase approval. Sit in your own values unapologetically.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love that final message of empowerment. I want to remind you all that you can make sure to check the description box below because all of Dr. Marcela's information will be there, whether it's email, social media platforms, and you definitely want to follow her to stay up to date with all the awesome events that she is a part of, the women that she is continuing to be, and the awesome impact that she is making.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. And as she mentioned, instant gratification, wanting things to get done quick. With the times that we are experiencing and the uncertainty, know that this is a marathon. So you have to take the time and just fight through it every single day for yourself, for your friends, for your family, for your neighbors, and for humanity at large. So we want to remind you that we got to care for ourselves first so that we can better care for others. So take the tips from today and pour them into yourself. Take what resonates. And if you follow our pages, you're going to get so much more advice on how to better take care of yourself and leadership of your own life. So I hope that you all enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Stand up for what is right and share this with someone who has been feeling the heaviness of the world, who needs advice on how to take leadership of their life. And further connect with us on social media. Look at the links below, and I'll see you in the next video.